Breaking news in the Middle East. Iranian state media says Israel has launched new strikes on the country this morning following deadly attacks overnight. The Israeli military says more than 200 fighter jets were involved in the strikes that were aimed at Iran's nuclear sites. Senior Iranian military leaders and some of the country's top nuclear scientists were among those killed in the attacks.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it a, quote, targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's survival. He added the strikes would continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. The U.S. had been urging Israel to not make a move like this as the Trump administration worked to make a nuclear deal with Tehran. The Trump administration said it was not involved in the strikes and was not providing Israel with military assistance. NBC News military analyst Colonel Jack Jacobs is standing by with analysis, along with NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, who has the latest from Washington. Let's begin with NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley, who is following the latest developments from Tel Aviv. Matt, good morning. We know the strikes have continued this morning. What can you tell us about how they unfolded and their impact on Iran so far?
Yeah, good morning, guys. You're right. Those strikes are continuing. We're continuing to get word of new cities and targets that the Israelis are hitting. A lot of this coming from Iranian state television and official sources there. You know, all of this started at about 2 or 3 in the morning, and the Israelis did have a siren here in Tel Aviv. This was, as you mentioned, and as we're hearing from Israeli officials, a huge attack, the largest that Israel has done against the Iranian nuclear technology program. This is still ongoing. We're still hearing about Iranian retaliation, and we're still expecting that here. There were about 100 drones, as you mentioned, fired from Iran at Israel, and it looks as though the Israelis swatted most of those away before they even entered Israeli airspace. So the big retaliation, the punishment, as you mentioned, coming from Iranian officials, is probably yet to come. Nevertheless, I've been walking around this city, and it looks as though people are kind of out and about, but it is a much diminished crowd from what you would normally see in the beginning of a weekend here in Tel Aviv. People had been instructed by the Israeli government to stay as close as possible to protected shelters and buildings. Just a couple of hours ago, the Israelis lifted that order, so everything is, as far as on an official level, back to normal. There's no more recommendations for people to seek shelter, but this whole region and this country is girding for the kind of war that they have long dreaded. Guys?
Matt, Iran's foreign minister is saying that the Israeli attack violated the United Nations Charter and that Iran has a legal right to respond. Tell us more about what we're hearing from Iran this morning, how we are expecting them to respond.
That's right, from Iran and from governments throughout the Middle East. They're condemning this attack and, as you said, echoing that language, that this is a violation of Iranian sovereignty, and noting that the Israelis struck first. They did not strike against Iran with provocation, though the Israelis have said that the Iranians were advancing their nuclear program, and that is why they decided to strike now. We also heard from the Iranian government that the top echelon of the Revolutionary Guard Air Force was killed, all of them together, in a meeting underground, in a kind of like a bunker. So we're hearing more and more from the Iranians about who was killed, and it sounds as though there's shades of what happened in Lebanon against Hezbollah. The Israelis seem to be picking off top leaders. The 3 top military commanders were killed of the Iranian military. 2 nuclear scientists were also among the dead. And again, we're still seeing these strikes happening, so we're probably going to see a longer list of the fatalities as the days go on.
Matt, can you tell us more about the response in the region from countries like Egypt and Jordan? I mean, is there any sense this conflict could spill over, that we could see a wider war in the region?
Well, you know, it's a good question, Joe. And like I said, they are condemning this. They're saying that it's a violation of national sovereignty for the Iranians. But the big question here, or what would have been the big question here, is how Iran might respond with its proxies throughout the region. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen. There were militant groups in Syria and Iraq who are financed by Iran. And, of course, Hamas in the Gaza Strip. But, guys, over the past year and a half, all of those groups have been very much destroyed, with the exception maybe of the Houthis in Yemen, who are still firing rockets at Israel. Now, we did hear from television here in Israel that the Iranians had asked the Houthis in Yemen to join their retaliation. But we did hear from Hezbollah in Lebanon that they are not going to be attacking Israel as part of this Iranian retaliation. So it looks as though Israel has already done the dirty work of putting down so many of these Iranian proxy groups throughout the region. Now they can just focus on their main target, Iran itself.
All right, Matt Bradley starting our coverage from Tel Aviv. Matt, thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.